Part 40. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Depeng. Chapter 395. Red Cloud Sea Area. Not long after Meng Jinming died, a 7th level cultivator quickly rushed over to the deep blue sea under the orders of Patriarch Xuanhuan. Ancestor Xuanhuan has been guarding his weapon refining furnace for several years. He wants to refine a very powerful secret treasure. Once his treasure is successfully refined, he will be certain to capture the 3 sea areas, Zhouhuang Sea, Qingtian Sea, and Ziji Sea. In one fell swoop, he became the master of the 5-color sea area. He does not have the ability like Chen Ronghuo, who can let the territorial light of his territory envelope the entire 5-color sea area. But after he became the lord of the 5-color sea area, he could let his subordinates build territories one after another. Then let them make offerings to themselves every year. Almost all large territories follow this strategy. That is to say, the power of faith obtained by those small territories must not only sacrifice a large part to the gods, but also allocate a large part of the remaining power of faith to large territories. I don't know who he is, but he actually killed the Lord's son. He really didn't want his life. Yu Jingchen thought to himself as he hurried on his way. He was the person sent by Patriarch Xuanhuan to the deep blue sea to find the murderer of Meng Jinming. Yu Jingchen didn't understand what killed Meng Jinming. It is true that Meng Jinming is the illegitimate son of Patriarch Xuanhuan. But Patriarch Xuanhuan did not hide this. The only thing their subordinates didn't know was who Meng Jinming's mother was. Yu Jingchen took the time to rush on his way, hoping to feel the deep blue sea as soon as possible and find out the truth. Fortunately, the 2 Haitian divine birds have left. Now we are rushing to the deep blue sea. We can go directly to Haitian Island. Otherwise, we have to go around in a long circle. The 2 Haitian divine birds on Haitian Island master the rare laws of space. Although both birds are half-step 7th level, each one is capable of leapfrogging the challenge. But compared with this, the most powerful thing about the 2 sea and sky birds is their mobility, their powerful escape ability, and their strong desire for revenge. There used to be a territorial lord in the 5-color sea area who was a mid-7th level cultivator. The lord came with his men to encircle and suppress these 2 sea and sky divine birds, trying to subdue them, but in the end they lost everything. Not only did the Lord fail to subdue the 2 sea and sky divine birds, but he also took revenge after they escaped. With the strength of the 2 half-step 7th level sea and sky divine birds, they were certainly no match for the Lord whose cultivation was as high as the mid-7th level. But the 2 divine birds of the sea and sky relied on their mobility to hover outside the Lord's territory every day. Except for the mid-7th level Lord, anyone else would be attacked by the thunder of the 2 sea and sky divine birds, regardless of whether they entered or exited. There was nothing the Lord could do about this. He wanted to take action himself, but as soon as the 2 sea and sky divine birds saw it, they teleported a few times and disappeared. The last Lord was forced out of the 5-color sea area. Clang! Clang! Suddenly, when Yu Jingchen was thinking about something, he was startled and heard 2 clanging sounds like metal hitting each other. He looked up and immediately saw 2 large snow-white birds circling over a large island in front of him. And looked at him with sharp eyes. It was as if he had intruded into their territory. These 2 big birds are tens of meters long. For some powerful demons, a body length of tens of meters is not too big. But after seeing these 2 big birds, Yu Jingchen's expression suddenly changed. There is no other reason. Because these 2 big birds were exactly the divine birds of the sea and sky that he had just thought of. Haven't these 2 ghosts left here for more than 10 years? Why are they back again? Yu Jingchen quickly stopped. That boy Meng Jinming, must he have been unlucky enough to meet them? Were they killed as intruders? There are 4 major forces in the 5-color sea area, namely the Xuanhuan territory, the Qingtian territory, the Ziji territory, and the Zhouhuang territory. Except for Xuanhuan territory, the lords of the other three major territories are all in the late 7th level, and are not as good as ancestor Xuanhuan. It is precisely because of this that the owners of the three major territories are friendly with each other and are secretly hostile to the Xuanhuan territory. However, the relationship between the four major territories has not yet reached the point where they are completely broken. So Yu Jingchen couldn't figure out whose hands Meng Jinming died in. You must know that the strength of a half-step 7th level cultivator is no longer weak in the 5-color sea area. The divine bird of the sea and sky. Yu Jingchen's eyes flashed with light. He did not dare to break into Haitian Island, but slowly retreated back. Go back to the territory first and tell the Lord about this matter. It is up to the Lord to decide how to do it. Yu Jingchen made up his mind and immediately returned along the way he came. He almost identified the two murderers of Meng Jinming as these two sacred birds of the sea and sky. River crab collar. In the secret room. Chen Ronghuo slowly exhaled and stood up from the futon. The 6th change of the law talisman means that the cultivator has entered the 6th level. The 7 changes of the law talisman represent that the cultivator has reached the 7th level. Before the 7th level, the changes of the law talisman are divided into 5 levels: the early stage of 6 changes, the middle stage, the late stage, the peak, and the half-step 7th stage. Supplemented by the breath of the law of Great Wave Tribulation, Chen Ronghuo's cultivation went smoothly. From the time he practiced in seclusion to the end of the seclusion, it was less than a day. In this day, he had already worked hard to improve his cultivation to half a step to the 7th level. Of course, at this point, all the breath of the law of calamity he had obtained before was also consumed by him. I don't know if my choice is right or not. After the retreat, Chen Ronghuo shook his head and smiled bitterly. The sequelae of practicing 9 laws at the same time finally manifested completely at this time. If it were those who only practiced 1 or 2 laws, with so many breaths of the law of calamity, it would be more than enough to break through to the 7th level in one fell swoop. In addition, the laws he practiced also included advanced laws such as the law of soul, the law of power, and the law of disaster. Therefore, in fact, the speed of his cultivation is not 9 times slower than that of ordinary practitioners who only practiced 1 law, but more than 10 times slower. The higher the level of the cultivator, the harder it is to challenge a cultivator of a higher level. My current cultivation level is half a step to the 7th level. With the help of the divine seal to burn the power of faith, ordinary mid-level 7th level cultivators are no match for me. However, facing a late-level 7th level cultivator, I can only barely compete with him. I can no longer kill a late-level 6th level cultivator as I did before when I was half a step to the 6th level. Chen Ronghuo estimated his own strength in his heart. In other words, I still need to take over the 5-color sea area. But this matter is not too urgent. Now the time flow rate in the river crab world has increased by 20 times. Next, I will let Wankaya Hassan and others concentrate on cultivation. In a few years, their strength will be greatly improved. While pondering in his heart, Chen Ronghuo thought again that his cultivation level could not be improved in a short time, but he could find 2 demons and sign a demon contract during this period. He broke through from the 4th level to the 5th level, and from the 5th level to the 6th level, but he had not yet contracted a demon. As soon as Chen Ronghuo walked out of the secret room, the guard outside the secret room stepped forward and said, "Lord, Master Zhenkinzan wants to see you for something. Tell him to go to the meeting hall to see me." Chen Ronghuo's heart moved slightly. Through the ancient book, he roughly knew what Zhenkinzan wanted to see him about. The guard took the order and left, and he walked to the meeting hall from another passage. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 396. You mean, it was the 2 sea and sky divine birds that killed Jin Ming? In Xuanhuan's territory, Patriarch Xuanhuan frowned. He didn't expect that. He asked Yu Jingchen to go to the deep blue sea to find out the news, and finally got such an answer. "Lord, This is my speculation, but other than that, I really can't think of anyone who has the courage to kill Deputy Lord Meng Jinming. Inside the volcano, Yu Jingchen stood more than 10 meters away from Ancestor Xuanhuan. He felt the astonishing heat and dragon power released from the refining furnace in front of Ancestor Xuanhuan. He felt awe-inspiring in his heart and lowered his head and said, "The divine bird of the sea and sky." Ancestor Xuanhuan showed a ferocious look on his face. Turning his hand, he suddenly took out a stone with an earthy yellow halo. "You help me deliver a message to Fan Changdong, saying that I ask him to help me go to Haitian Island and kill those two flat-haired beasts. As long as he helps me capture those two flat-haired beasts alive, I will give him all the 3 pieces of 10,000-year-old Earth Spirit Heart I got. This 1,000-year-old Earth Spirit Heart is the deposit I gave him." When Yu Jingchen heard this, a look of astonishment suddenly appeared on his face. Fan Changdong is the owner of the Zhouhuang territory. He did not expect that Patriarch Xuanhuan would ask Fan Changdong for help in order to avenge Meng Jinming one day earlier. River Crab Collar. Chen Ronghuo sat in the meeting hall. Wang Chao, Ho San, Zhangji, Chang Sunyi, Zhen Qinzan, and others stood below. With the help of 5th-level cultivators like them, and the cooperation of Big River Crab, they completed the task in just one day and transferred all the humans in the Deep Blue Sea to the River Crab world. At this time, in the Deep Blue Sea, except for the River Crab territory, no one could be found anywhere else. Chen Ronghuo has truly become the Lord of Deep Blue. However, compared to this matter, Wang Chao and others discovered the abnormality in the Hexian world as soon as they returned to the Hexian world. The most exciting thing at this time was that Chen Ronghuo used some means to change the flow of time in the Hexian world. They are all smart people and naturally know what it means to speed up the flow of time 20 times. "Lord, I think that after a while, when the newly joined citizens have stabilized, our territory should hold a grand gathering, which can speed up the return of the citizens. In addition, the number of residents in our territory has increased, and we must implement the basic law of the territory as soon as possible." Xiaoruo was reporting his plans to Chen Ronghuo. After hearing Xiaoruo's report, Chen Ronghuo nodded slightly. He naturally understands these things. It's just that this world is a world where strength is paramount. Now, most of his mind is on training and improving his strength. He had long since given up on these chores, and would only listen to them occasionally. "You can arrange it this way, and then just let it go. I believe you." When Xiaoruo finished speaking, Chen Ronghuo nodded. "Thank you, Lord, for your trust." Xiaoruo responded and stepped back. "Lord," at this time, Zhen Qinzan stepped forward and said, "I have merged the formation discs into one. In addition, I just discovered that the ruins that Gu Yuan pulled out from the bottom of the Deep Blue Sea may have something to do with our formation family relationship. So I want to ask the Lord for permission to enter the ruins." "Is it related to the Zhen family?" Chen Ronghuo looked thoughtful. He had previously calculated that Jing Qinzan was looking for him because it had something to do with the ruins outside. But he didn't expect that the ruins were actually related to the Zhen family. But it's not his fault. After all, he didn't know that the formation pearl in Gu Yuan's hand was actually obtained from the ruins outside. "Since that place has something to do with your Zhen family, it's okay if you want to go in and have a look." Chen Ronghuo looked at Zhen Qinzan and nodded. "I just don't know, can you guarantee your own safety? A powerful formation mage is extremely powerful. This is evident from the fact that Gu Yuan, with his mid-6th level cultivation, can lay out formations that can compete with 6th level peak cultivators. Zhen Qinzan's talent is higher than Gu Yuan's, and he holds a complete Zhen Dao real disc. If he grows up, he will definitely be a big help to Chen Ronghuo in the future. Therefore, it can be said that Chen Ronghuo is very concerned about the safety of Chen Ronghuo against Qian San." Zhen Qinzan immediately said, "Lord, don't worry, after the formation disc is complete, I have obtained the general information about the formation in the ruins. There will be no problem if I enter it? Chen Ronghuo nodded. In that case, I won't stop you. Just be careful. Thank you, Lord, for your concern. Zhen Qinzan lowered his head and took a few steps back. Not many of their formation family lineage has been spread outside the country. Their lineage is the main lineage of the formation family. And according to some information he got from the Gendao pearl he just obtained, the ruins outside should be left by a branch of the Zhen family. But even if it is a branch of the Jin family, it should be of great help to him. Ta-ta! At this time, Chen Ronghuo tapped his fingers on the armrest of the seat a few times. You should have sensed that not long ago, I used a secret treasure to speed up the flow of time in the river crab world by 20 times. Now the number of citizens in our Hexi territory has exceeded 100 million. In the next period of time, I will use all the power of faith produced by the territory on you. I hope you can live up to my expectations and cultivate to the 7th level as soon as possible. Chen Ronghuo swept his eyes over Wang Chao, Ho San, Zhang Ji, Gao Yan, Zhu Daipen, Li Haishui, Wu Piaoun, Chang Sun Gengzhang, Chang Sun Yi, and the rest of his men. His eyes were stern. At this time, except for Wu Piaoun, the rest of his men were not even level 6 practitioners, which seriously hindered him. However, the flow of time in the crab world was 20 times faster, and 1 year was equivalent to 20 years. 10 years was equivalent to 200 years. If he opened up the supply of faith power, it would not be difficult for his men to break through to the 7th level with their talents. At that time, these people could really be relied on by him as a helper. Lord, don't worry, we will definitely break through as soon as possible. A group of people answered. Chen Ronghuo nodded slightly. In fact, he could also use all the faith power generated by the territory on himself. In this way, it would be absolutely no problem for him to break through to become a level 7 practitioner within 10 years. But in this case, Wang Chao, Ho San, and others would be really useless in the future. They might never catch up with him. As it is now, he will first supply the power of faith to Wang Chao and others. After Wang Chao and others have all broken through to the 7th level, he can also use the strength of Wang Chao and others to attack the 5-color sea and obtain a large amount of the breath of the Law of Calamity. In this way, he can also break through to the 7th level in a short time. In comparison, this is a win-win approach, and it is also in his best interest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 397. After Wang Chao Ho San and his subordinates received the order, they immediately went to practice. Next, only Xiaoruo, Zhu Qian, Qin Duanwen, Tao Yuking, and others were left. Qin Duanwen and Tao Yuking were originally Chen Ronghuo's handyman disciples who followed him when he was in the Holy Tiger section. However, since he sent these people to the River Crab territory last time, they have gradually become the core members of the River Crab territory. They are not strong, but their management ability is no worse than Xiaoruo. Next, you should register all the citizens as soon as possible and start testing the qualifications of the citizens. Chen Ronghuo sat on the Lord's throne and gave instructions to several people. There are now over 100 million residents in his territory, and it is unknown how many have warlock qualifications or special talents that have been buried. Whether you have warlock qualifications or not can actually be checked. For most forces, there are generally 2 ways to do this kind of inspection. One is to detect it through practitioners who practice special secret techniques. Another method is to use special secret treasure detection. However, neither of these 2 methods can guarantee that there will be no defects. Therefore, Chen Ronghuo's plan is to use these 2 methods to roughly check it first, and then use ancient books to calculate the omissions. Otherwise, he would directly use ancient books to calculate, which would consume too much. I'll make arrangements soon. Xiaoruo and others agreed. Chen Ronghuo nodded and asked everyone to retreat. He now has a lot of resources, but no matter how many, they are not endless. It is impossible to educate everyone. Even if he wants to cultivate some geniuses, it depends on the extent of their genius. Even if someone has the same qualifications as Ho-san, he will only give him the appropriate skills at most, and will not even calculate the power of faith by the ton like training Ho-san. After all, in addition to Ho-san and others, the demons he contracted with also had to consume the power of faith to catch up with him. In addition, the remaining resources he has can only train middle-level generals at best. After Chen Ronghuo gave the order, within a few days, he led hundreds of millions of people to complete the registration process. This kind of efficiency is simply incredible. But this is the world of practitioners after all. Most practitioners of the second level and above can achieve photographic memory. Coupled with some special secret techniques, it is not impossible to achieve this. After Xiaoruo used secret techniques to store the information of all the people in the Hexi territory into a storage talisman, Chen Ronghuo began to use ancient books to calculate the missing points. It's just checking for deficiencies and filling them up, which is not very expensive for him who has already reached the 7th level of cultivation. Next, it's time to start contracting with the two demons again. When everything was over, Chen Ronghuo had an idea and began to use ancient books to deduce whether there was a demon suitable for his contract nearby. Haitian Island, Haitian Divine Bird. It didn't take long for Chen Ronghuo to figure out his goal. A flying demon with space attributes. Chen Ronghuo felt a glimmer of expectation in his heart. None of the demons he had contracted were really good at this. Boom. After walking out of the river crab world, Chen Ronghuo walked on the back of the big river crab and let the big river crab carry him and swam towards Haitian Island. The endless wind blew against his body like a knife. Chen Ronghuo did not deliberately avoid the strong wind, but let it hit him, feeling the coolness of the sea breeze, looking into the distance, thinking about things. After coming to this world for decades, he has never forgotten the Earth Star or his family. On the contrary, as time passed, his desire to go home became stronger and stronger. Lord, Xuanhuan territory asked us to deal with those two sea and sky divine birds. Isn't it a trap for us? Two figures flew out from the Xuanhuan territory and quietly arrived near Haitian Island. He has already paid the deposit, so it is unlikely that he will be tricked. Xuanhuan Lord Fan Changdong shook his head, and I have already asked people to pay attention to the Xuanhuan territory. If there is any movement there, I will know it immediately. Ancestor Xuanhuan asked him to capture the two divine birds of the sea and sky alive, so he naturally had to consider everything carefully. The subordinate led by Fan Changdong was a half-step 7th level cultivator. It's not that Fan Changdong doesn't want to bring a stronger cultivator to assist him, but in his Xuanhuan territory, besides himself, there is only one 7th level cultivator. Moreover, that cultivator had just broken through to the 7th level a few decades ago. In fact, unless it is a force that has been inherited for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even longer years, a force like Xuanhuan territory is usually just the leader himself, suppressing everything. After all, the territory's resources are limited, and the most correct choice is to concentrate a large amount of resources on the Lord alone. If it weren't for the fact that there was a 7th level cultivator in his territory, Fan Changdong would definitely not have agreed to the deal offered by Patriarch Xuanhuan. Because once he comes to capture the divine bird of the sea alive, if Patriarch Xuanhuan takes this opportunity to plunder his territory, he will have no place to cry. Almost all the larger territories in the North Sea have island protection formations. Such a large formation is controlled by multiple people and does not require an formation master to operate. And there is a 7th level cultivator sitting in the Xuanhuan territory, and with the territory's island protection formation, even a 7th level peak cultivator like Patriarch Xuanhuan can't easily capture his territory. It was precisely because of this that Fan Changdong dared to come to seek trouble for the divine bird of the sea. Clang! Clang! At this time, two birds chirping through gold and cracked stone came from the distance. These two divine birds of the sea and sky are indeed back. The hidden Fan Changdong glanced in the direction of Haitian Island, then dived into the sea and began to slowly approach the direction of Haitian Island. On Haitian Island, two Haitian god birds were soaring in the sky. Their eyes were bright and sharp, their bodies were agile, and their necks were tall and stretched, which gave them a proud beauty. And their huge bodies left huge shadows on the ground when they spread their wings, which seemed to be saying that once they got angry, they would be as powerful as thunder. At this time, when the two Haitian god birds were flying side by side, they both felt a little strange. It seemed that some kind of danger was about to come. Do you feel it? In the sea, Fan Changdong, who had used a secret technique to hide, murmured to himself in his heart after making arrangements, but it's too late. Thousands of mountains and shadows. Rumble. Suddenly, with Haitian Island as the center, a series of illusory mountain shadows suddenly emerged from the sea. After counting carefully, there were actually thousands of these illusory mountain shadows. The shadows of the illusory mountains connected with each other, forming a huge formation, which enveloped the two sea and sky birds. This is a formation that can limit the secret art of space. It is not necessary to be a formation master to set up a formation. Some formation masters can also refine secret treasures such as formation plates, and then let people who can't set up formations use formation plates to set up formations. Fan Changdong at this time is in this situation. However, most of these formation plates are disposable and cannot be used once, and the cost is too high. If it weren't for the deposit given by the old ancestor Qiyun in advance, Fan Changdong would never use the secret treasure to deal with the two sea and sky birds. After all, for him, killing or capturing these two half-step 7th level sea and sky birds alive is not proportional to consuming a powerful 7th level formation secret treasure. It is precisely because of this that no one in the 5-color sea area has ever dealt with these two sea and sky birds. Clang! Clang! The two sea and sky birds showed shock and anger. They circled rapidly in the formation, trying to escape, but were intercepted by the huge mountain shadows. What made them even more desperate was that their space escape technique also failed. Huh? Someone is actually attacking the two sea and sky birds. The formation set up by Fan Changdong can prevent the two sea and sky birds from escaping, but it has no ability to prevent the spread of sound. Chen Ronghuo, who was driving the big river crab to rush here, heard the movement from afar. I wonder who it could be. He stepped on the back of the big river crab and immediately accelerated, flying straight towards the direction of Haitian Island. Chen Ronghuo was not far from Haitian Island, so he arrived near Haitian Island in just a few flashes. Fan Changdong, who trapped the two sea and sky birds and was about to enter the formation to capture the two sea and sky birds alive, found Chen Ronghuo at the first time. I am Fan Changdong, the Lord of Zhouhuang territory. I don't know who you are and what you are here for. Fan Changdong raised his eyebrows. Just by looking at Chen Ronghuo's speed, we can know that Chen Ronghuo's strength has probably reached the 7th level. However, Chen Ronghuo's aura is obscure, even he can hardly see Chen Ronghuo's cultivation. Rumble. A large river crab with a body size of 100 miles quickly chased from behind. Chen Ronghuo fell on the back of the large river crab, his breath was calm, and he said lightly. River crab leader, Chen Ronghuo. I observed the sky at night and knew that these two sea and sky birds were destined to be with me, so I came to see them. Thanks to Wu Fenji for 500 coins, Jingzongweiled Haihei for 300 coins, and I also feel that everyone voted for the monthly recommendation vote. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 398. Clang. Clang. Two sea and sky birds, tens of meters in size, flashed dozens of times in an instant like two white lights in the 1,000 mountains and 10,000 shadows formation set up by Fan Changdong. It was just that the condensed momentum in the 1,000 mountains and 10,000 shadows formation gathered together, like the fascia under the skin of some terrifying life, tough, strong, and solid, and even the sharpest knife could not cut it. Their space teleportation technique was even more restricted here. Chen Ronghuo glanced at the two sea and sky birds. Sea and sky birds, half-step to the 7th level. Comprehending the laws of space. Talent, 8-10. Secret skills, escape from the air, split the air, space cutting technique. Status, swallowing the space attribute genius treasure Wanzai King Kongju, the talent will be strengthened to the peak within 10 years. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed. He originally only used ancient books to calculate that these two sea and sky birds were suitable to become his contracted demons, but he did not expect that their talent qualifications were expected to reach 10 points. With 10 points of talent, it is no less than his fat cat and several other demon pets. In addition, these two guys are both space attribute demons. Even if their cultivation is only half a step to the 7th level, it is estimated that even ordinary 7th level practitioners may not be their opponents. Even if the two birds join forces, even a mid-level 7th level practitioner may not be able to do anything to them in a head-on confrontation. Watching the sky at night, is it destined for you? At this time, Fan Changdong, who heard Chen Ronghuo's words, suddenly sank. He is not a fool. When Chen Ronghuo heard this, he knew that he was here to cause trouble for him or wanted to snatch the prey from him. But when he thought of the obscure aura on Chen Ronghuo and the huge size of the big river crab under Chen Ronghuo, his eyes showed a little solemnity. However, although he was solemn, he was not afraid. Because although the aura on Chen Ronghuo was obscure, it did not bring him that kind of extremely dangerous feeling. As a late 7th level cultivator, he could already sense the existence of someone extremely dangerous to him. River crab territory? Chen Ronghuo? Where did this person come from? In the 1,000 mountains and 10,000 shadows formation, the two sea and sky birds became quiet after hearing Chen Ronghuo's words. Someone actually came to save them. They felt incredible. They couldn't think of any fate between themselves and Chen Ronghuo. Your Excellency wants to take these two sea and sky birds from me. Fan Changdong's aura slowly released, giving people a piercing coldness and a strange sense of heaviness. Fan Changdong, late 7th level cultivator. Identity, Lord of the Zhouhuang territory, Marquis. Talent, 7. Constitution, extremely frozen body, remnant, thick earth body, remnant. Kung Fu, extreme cold magic, 1,000 mountains Ding Tiangong. Note, Fan Changdong was born with congenital deficiencies, and the two defective physiques are mutually exclusive. Only by practicing the frozen earth type exercises that integrate the two laws can the deficiencies be made up and the talents be improved. If possible, Chen Ronghuo said with a smile, my Hexi territory also welcomes you to join. How shameless! Fan Changdong was furious. In the 5-color sea area, no one had ever dared to talk to him like this. You are congenitally deficient. If you practice the two exercises of extreme cold magic and Qianshan Ding Tiangong, you will never be able to break through to the 8th level in your lifetime. Chen Ronghuo didn't care and directly revealed Fan Changdong's secret, but if you join my Hexi territory, I can help you overcome the conflict of physique. You. Fan Changdong's pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked at Chen Ronghuo in disbelief. This is his secret, and no one knows it except himself. He couldn't think of how Chen Ronghuo saw it. When Chen Ronghuo said this, his heart was immediately in chaos. Chen Ronghuo looked at Fan Changdong quietly and said nothing more. Your words touched me, but I want to see how strong you are first. After a moment of silence, Fan Changdong spoke. he is the lord of a territory and has lived for nearly 10,000 years before becoming the lord of the turbid Yellow Sea. It is impossible for him to lose his IQ just because of Chen Ronghuo's words. After one sentence, his momentum has completely risen. Chen Ronghuo raised his eyebrows, knowing that it is probably impossible for him to subdue Fan Changdong this time. But he didn't care about it. Meeting Fan Changdong here was just an accident for him. He was naturally happy to be able to subdue Fan Changdong without any effort. But if he couldn't, he wouldn't force it. Now he only needs to wait a few years, wait for Wan Kea Hassan and others to grow up, and the entire five-color sea area will be his possession. Chen Ronghuo glanced at the 1,000 mountains and 10,000 shadows formation that trapped the two sea and sky birds, and at the same time used ancient books to deduce its weaknesses and flaws. Take my attack. Suddenly, Fan Changdong shouted. His hands turned into ice claws, and he repeatedly grabbed Chen Ronghuo through the air. One after another, the ice claws, with terrifying shadows, were like stacked ice mountains, with terrifying power and countless after-images, covering Chen Ronghuo standing on the back of the big river crab. Bang, boom, boom. Chen Ronghuo began to punch. Punches blasted out, colliding with Fan Changdong's ice claws, exploding the ice peaks, and the cold air dissipated, spreading into the water, and in the blink of an eye, a large area of sea water was frozen into ice. Some of the cold air fell on the back of the big river crab, and the body of the big river crab, which was 100 miles long, was all covered with snow-white ice. The big river crab's body shook repeatedly, shaking down large swaths of ice. It raised its two pliers and wanted to help Chen Ronghuo. But as soon as its pincers were swung out, they were hit back by Fan Changdong's ice claws. Its strength is far inferior to that of Fan Changbing. Fortunately, it was huge in size and had amazing defense. Even if it encountered Fan Changdong's attack head-on, it did not suffer any injuries. Is this the strength of a late 7th level cultivator? Chen Ronghuo's face was solemn, and with the thought, he began to burn the power of faith. Without burning the power of faith, he is no match for Fan Changdong. Even after burning the power of faith, he felt inferior to Fan Changdong. At the mid-7th level, after burning the power of faith, your strength is still a little weaker than mine. Following the fight, Fan Changdong finally knew Chen Ronghui's strength. The higher the cultivation level, the harder it is to be killed. But Fan Changdong wanted to give it a try to see if he could keep Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo's words just now drove a nail into his heart. He looked at Chen Ronghuo, with a cold expression on his face. You have such strength, but you also want to interfere in my affairs. Boom boom boom. As he spoke, his hands moved more quickly. Like a violent storm, it continued to grab at Chen Ronghuo, freezing everything with coldness that grew colder and colder as he moved. Fan Changdong, you have to think clearly before taking action. Chen Ronghuo's face was gloomy. While trying his best to resist Fan Changdong's attack, he spoke. At the same time, he started to make the big river crab retreat, as if he realized that he was no match for Fan Changdong and wanted to leave here. Seeing Chen Ronghuo's actions, Fan Changdong showed an eager look on his face. The formation that trapped the two sea and sky divine birds is now being presided over by the half-step 7th level practitioner he brought. If he cannot defeat Chen Ronghuo in a short time, his subordinates will not be able to hold on for long. Once the two sea and sky divine birds escape, it will be troublesome. Leave me alone. Fan Changdong shouted loudly. As he shouted, the layers of cold air that he had grabbed with his hands suddenly gathered together with Chen Ronghuo as the center. Amidst the clicking sound, Chen Ronghuo froze into a human-shaped popsicle in the blink of an eye. When Chen Ronghuo was frozen, the retreating Dahi crab did not react and separated from Chen Ronghuo. Boom! Fan Changdong saw that Chen Ronghuo was caught off guard and was hit by his extremely cold ice ultimate move. He quickly sealed with his hands and quickly summoned a huge illusory mountain shadow to attack Chen Ronghuo from above. A series of special lines flashed under the shadow of the mountain, seeming to carry some kind of sealing power. Boom! With a loud noise, Chen Ronghuo, who was frozen by the extremely cold ice, was directly suppressed into the sea by the illusory mountain shadow. Under the suppression of the phantom of the mountain, an unknown amount of sea water was evaporated under this terrifying force. Seeing this scene, Fan Changdong was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Chen Ronghuo would be suppressed by him so easily. Clang! Clang! In the array of thousands of mountains and thousands of shadows, two divine birds of the sea and sky screamed. Chen Ronghuo's strength is much stronger than them. But even Chen Ronghuo is no match for Fan Changdong. Once Fan Changdong enters the formation, they may not be able to hold on for long. Roar! At this time, the big river crab discovered Chen Ronghuo's situation. Most of its body rose from the sea water, revealing its dark and cold carapace, showing infinite viciousness. Fan Changdong glanced at Dahi Crab without paying attention. Even Chen Ronghuo was suppressed by him. Can this river crab, whose strength is only half a step to the 7th level, still be able to make a huge difference? As soon as he thought about it, he would use all his strength to capture the big river crab. Boom! But at this moment, the endless sea water below suddenly boiled violently. It's like a nuclear bomb exploded underwater. The water rolled in all directions. Not good. Fan Changdong's expression changed drastically. The power of his soul swept into the sea and found that Chen Ronghuo had suddenly broken out of his suppression. The most important thing is that at this time, Chen Ronghuo is rushing towards his subordinate who is hiding in a small shielding formation and controlling the Thousand Mountains and Shadows formation. Fooled. Fan Changdong felt cold all over. Thanks to the book friend Mu Sunzabuki for the 500 coin reward, and the book friend 1610032351267773 for the 100 coin reward. There are also many recommended monthly tickets today. Thank you all. Also, the writing is a bit slow, and I will probably only have one more chapter tonight. I will try to get it out before 12 o'clock, then keep working hard tomorrow. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dopang. Chapter 399. Stop. Fan Changdong looked anxious and shouted at Chen Ronghuo. This time he attacked the two sea and sky divine birds because they were caught by surprise and were trapped in the formation. But once Chen Ronghuo destroyed the formation and released the two sea and sky divine birds from the formation, it would be difficult for him to trap them in the formation in the future. That's not all. What he was more worried about was the revenge of these two sea and sky divine birds. The revengeful desire of these two sea and sky divine birds is famous in the entire five-color sea area. Under the sea, Chen Ronghuo, who was deliberately frozen, exploded with all his strength, blasting through the ice outside his body and the phantom of the mountain that suppressed it from above, and immediately rushed towards Fan Changdong's subordinate. Stop. When Chen Ronghuo heard Fan Changdong's shouting, his face was extremely calm. Just in the calm, he released the power of his soul, caught the subtle fluctuations in front, and punched it out. This punch was just an ordinary punch. But to him it was an ordinary punch, but to Fan Changdong's half-step 7th level subordinate, this punch was a fatal punch. His cultivation level is the same as that of Chen Ronghao, half a step to the 7th level. However, their cultivation levels are the same, but their strength is completely different. Call. Before Chen Ronghuo's fist arrived, there was a wave of fluctuation in front of him. Immediately, Fan Changdong's subordinate swayed and rushed out of the shielding formation with a pale face. Boom! Chen Ronghuo punched the spot where the cultivator had been, and immediately knocked away the illusory scene there, revealing the seabed plate. There is also an altar on the seabed plate, and an earthy yellow flag on the altar. At the same time, there were more than a dozen small formation flags surrounding the altar. However, Under Chen Ronghuo's punch just now, all those small formation flags fell to the ground. Obviously these things are the ones used to set up the shielding array. Whoosh! After Chen Ronghuo punched him, he flashed and landed on the altar. With a wave of his hand, he pulled down the cocky flag on the altar. This flag is the main flag of the Thousand Mountains and Thousand Shadows formation, the formation that traps 2 sea and sky divine birds. Clang! Clang! As soon as Chen Ronghuo pulled out the cocky flag, the 2 sea and sky divine birds trapped in the formation seized the opportunity, used the teleportation technique, and rushed out of the chaotic formation. Chen Ronghuo. When Fan Changdong saw this scene, a look of anger appeared on his face. I have no enmity with these 2 sea and sky divine birds. Do you know why I want to attack them? Let me tell you, I want to attack them because they killed Qiyun's son. Qiyun is the lord of Qiyun's territory, you shouldn't know that, right? So it's not me you offended this time, but Qiyun. If you are still smart, join me immediately to catch these 2 sea and sky divine birds, maybe you can save them, if not. Fan Changdong kept talking, trying to use Ancestor Qiyun to suppress Chen Ronghui, so as to persuade him to join him in capturing the 2 sea and sky divine birds alive. The beast that killed Meng Jinming? Chen Ronghuo was startled when he heard this. Only then did we know why Fan Changdong took action against these 2 divine birds of the sea and sky. But it turned out that it was these 2 divine birds of the sea and sky. For some unknown reason, they took the blame for killing Meng Jinming. At this time, 2 divine birds of the sea and sky were hovering in the distance. They stretch their necks, reveal their strong bodies, and soar into the sky. But their eyes were as sharp as knives, staring at Fan Changdong. Kill Patriarch Qiyun's son? They don't even know who the son of Patriarch Qiyun is. Wow! Chen Ronghuo rushed out of the sea. He glanced at the 2 divine birds of the sea and sky in the distance, with a smile on his face. This person actually encouraged me to take action against you, are you just watching? Both of the 2 Haitian divine birds are at the 7th level of cultivation. Such cultivation has naturally enabled them to understand human speech and even speak human speech. Clang! Clang! After hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, they looked at each other and immediately flashed in the void. When they reached the sky above Fan Changdong, when Yu Suibai's claws passed by, they split the space, drew 2 dark gaps, crossed to form a cross, and stamped towards Fan Changdong. Boom! At the same time, Chen Ronghuo also used the demon disintegration technique, turned his hands into tiger claws, and grabbed Fan Changdong. Fan Changdong looked ugly, and with a thought, a huge icicle formed in front of him. The attacks of the 2 Haitian divine birds and Chen Ronghuo landed on the huge icicle, instantly cutting it into pieces. But when it was blasted to pieces, Fan Changdong had already retreated and came to his half-step 7th level subordinate. He grabbed the subordinate and rushed towards the direction of Xuanhuan's territory. Lord Fan, remember, within 10 years, if you regret it, you can come to Haitian Island to find me at any time. The door of my Hexi territory will be open to you at any time within 10 years. Chen Ronghuo looked at Fan Changdong who was escaping. He thought about it and did not chase him. He just shouted. Of course, even if he goes after him, even if he uses the power of ancient books, he probably won't be able to keep Fan Changdong. He is still not strong enough now. Fan Changdong's cultivation level is too high. Even if he uses all his strength now and uses the seal of the ancient book, he probably won't be able to seal him for too long. And with Fan Changdong's defense, even if he could seal him for a moment, he might not be able to cause too much damage to him in that moment. We still have to wait for a while. Chen Ronghuo looked at Fan Changdong's departing back and murmured in his heart, but this trip can harvest 2 contracted demons with space attributes, which is worth it. In the distance, Fan Changdong heard Chen Ronghuo speak, and his face became even uglier. Chen Ronghuo's method was indeed beyond his expectations. But he didn't think that Chen Ronghuo really knew how to solve his physical conflict. Because for this matter, he even left the 5-color sea area and asked an 8th level cultivator. How could Chen Ronghuo know a solution to a problem that even an 8th level cultivator couldn't solve? And even if Chen Ronghuo really knew a solution, he didn't want to join Chen Ronghuo's men. He was different from a martial arts fanatic like Wu Piaoun. Compared with powerful military force, he also pursued power and was unwilling to be driven by others. I will remember it, but I will also tell Qiyun about this matter. Fan Changdong's eyes flashed, and he transmitted his voice, I hope you can stop his anger by then. He was thinking whether he could use the power of the ancestor Qiyun to get the secret of Chen Ronghuo. Looking at Fan Changdong's rapidly receding back, Chen Ronghuo shook his head. Knowing that he wanted to subdue Fan Changdong, it was unlikely. But he didn't feel sorry. If he couldn't subdue him, then destroy him. Wait a few years, destroy Fan Changdong, and he can still gain a lot. Human. Suddenly, after Fan Changdong left, 2 sea and sky birds circled over Chen Ronghuo, looking at Chen Ronghuo with a little vigilance, but seemed to be unable to resist asking curiously, you said we are destined, I wonder where we are destined. Where is the fate? Chen Ronghuo raised his head and looked at the 2 huge sea and sky birds, I was the one who killed the son of the Chiun patriarch, but they said it was you who killed him. Are we predestined? You mean this? The 2 big birds' faces turned black when they heard this. Of course it's more than that. Chen Ronghuo smiled, I am a demon magician, and you are demons. Do you think this is also predestined? You are teasing us. Instantly, the 2 sea and sky birds were angry. Although Chen Ronghuo saved them, it now seems that Chen Ronghuo saved them just like Fan Changdong just now, and was also planning to attack them. Just with anger, they did not lose their reason, but after looking at each other, they shook their birds and wanted to stay away from Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo's strength is only slightly inferior to Fan Changdong just now. If Chen Ronghuo attacks them unexpectedly, they may not be able to escape. Seal. Seeing the actions of the 2 sea and sky birds, Chen Ronghuo gently uttered a word. His cultivation was too low to seal Fan Changdong. But with his current cultivation, it was not too difficult to seal a sea and sky bird of the same level as him. And this time, he chose to seal the mobility of a sea and sky bird. Plop. As Chen Ronghuo injected most of his soul power into the ancient book, the slightly smaller of the 2 sea and sky birds was caught off guard, and suddenly flickered its wings and fell into the sea with a plop. Whoosh. When this scene happened, Chen Ronghuo flashed and landed on the back of the sea and sky bird. Asshole, what did you do to my wife? Get off my wife quickly. At this time, the larger sea and sky bird that had just used the teleportation technique to escape, after discovering that its other half did not keep up with it, looked back and saw this scene, and its eyes immediately turned red. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 400. Get off your wife. Chen Ronghuo's face turned black. He said this as if he was a pervert. Even if he was hungry, he would not mess with birds. But looking at the appearance of this male bird, he first used the seal page of the ancient book to deal with the female sea bird, which was obviously the right move. Okay, I'll get down now. Chen Ronghuo's mind moved, and he enlarged his hand, grabbed the neck of the female seabird under him, and raised it high above his head. Now, can we talk properly? What? The male seabird in the distance kept flashing in the sky, with red light in its eyes. I just said that I am a demon magician, and you are demons. We are destined to be together. What do you think? Chen Ronghuo smiled and played the role of a villain. Of course, in fact, he was the kind of person who could sacrifice a certain degree of integrity to achieve his goals. Clang. Clang. Go, avenge me later. The female Haitian god bird held by Chen Ronghuo suddenly opened her mouth and cried out in anger. Don't open your mouth. Chen Ronghuo frowned, and slightly exerted force on the hand holding the female Haitian god bird's neck, causing the big bird's body to twitch, and at the same time, he leaned its head against his face. The female Haitian god bird's smooth and delicate, silk-like fluff rubbed against the skin on his face, giving him an unusually comfortable feeling. Bird feathers are not bad to stroke, almost catching up with fat cats. Chen Ronghuo thought in his heart, and once again made up his mind to contract these two Haitian god birds into his demon pets. He raised his head and looked at the high seas bird flickering in the distance, smiling. How about it, have you thought about it? If you agree to become my demon pet, within 10 years, I can let you and your wife advance to the 7th level. Of course, you can choose not to agree. But in that case, don't blame me for stewing your wife in the pot. You dare. The high seas bird flapped its wings, stirring up storms. There is nothing I dare not do. Chen Ronghuo shook his head, and you don't have to think about revenge, because... He suddenly moved his mind, dispelling the obscure aura surrounding his body, revealing his true cultivation. My current cultivation level is the same as yours, both are half-step to the 7th level. You two can only fight against the 7th level mid-level cultivators together, but I can kill the 7th level mid-level cultivators by myself. My strength and talent are far stronger than yours. If you are my enemy, you will never have the hope of revenge. But if you are willing to follow my footsteps, I can also take you to fly higher and farther. Half-step to the 7th level? Chen Ronghuo dispersed the obscure aura that permeated around him, and the sea and sky bird in the distance, as well as the snow-white bird in his hand, stiffened slightly. Before, when they saw Chen Ronghuo fighting with Fan Changdong, they thought that Chen Ronghuo was a 7th level mid-level cultivator. After burning the power of faith, he could almost fight against the 7th level late-stage cultivator. But they never thought that Chen Ronghuo's cultivation level was the same as theirs, only half-step to the 7th level. The two of them were able to fight against the 7th stage early-stage cultivators by relying on the laws of space and their own bloodlines, and they could fight against the 7th stage mid-stage cultivators together. They all felt that they were extremely talented. But they did not expect that there was a pervert like Chen Ronghuo in this world, whose talent was far stronger than theirs. For a moment, the two sea and sky birds fell silent. Qian territory. What did you say? Qian Patriarch looked at Yu Jingchen who came to report the news, and his eyes seemed to be spitting fire. Fan Changdong asked you to tell me that he took my deposit but failed to complete the task. Yu Jingchen's heart trembled. Lord, the people sent by Fan Changdong said that their lord was about to succeed, but someone named Chen Ronghuo came from nowhere and claimed to be the lord of the river crab territory and rescued the two sea and sky birds that he trapped with the formation. That Chen Ronghuo's own strength is only the 7th stage mid-stage, but his territory is built on the back of a big river crab with a radius of 100 miles, which can move position at any time. Under the power of burning faith, Fan Changdong could only barely gain a slight advantage in fighting with him. He said that he could call on the three people from Qingtian and Zhejiang area to work together with the Lord to destroy the crab territory and the two sea and sky birds. Chen Ronghuo, the crab territory. Qiyun Patriarch clenched his fists. I remember Jin Ming sent back a message saying that before he went to the deep blue sea, a crab territory had appeared there. But he asked people to search for it for a long time, but they couldn't find it. Could this crab territory be that one? Yu Jingchen lowered his head, not daring to guess randomly. Okay, you go down first. Suddenly, Qiyun Patriarch waved his hand. Put this matter aside first, and wait until I finish my retreat and refine the secret treasure. Qiyun Patriarch turned his head and looked at the refining furnace in front of him. When this secret treasure is refined, with his strength, he will be able to suppress the entire five-color sea area. Then, no matter if it was Fan Changdong or anyone else, he could subdue them with force. Clang, clang. Above the vast sea, 2C and sky birds spread their wings and soared. Chen Ronghuo sat on the back of one of the sea and sky birds, touching the smooth and soft feathers of the sea and sky bird with his hands, with a smile on his face. After some friendly negotiations, the two sea and sky birds finally became his contracted demons. Rumble. Below, the big river crab swam quickly in the sea. If the two sea and sky birds had not deliberately slowed down, it would have been unable to keep up. After all, it is not a speed-type demon, and its current cultivation has just reached the late 6th level. It is already extraordinary to be able to have such a speed. Is this the turbid Yellow Sea area? After traveling quickly for a while, a Yellow Sea area appeared in Chen Ronghuo's eyes. When he contracted the two sea and sky birds, he agreed to a condition for them, which was to help them find revenge for Fan Changdong. With his current strength, he naturally did not dare to go to Fan Changdong's territory and find trouble with Fan Changdong. But he could start with those small territories that depended on Fan Changdong. At the same time, he could also use this to further increase the number of people in the river crab territory. After the big river crab broke through to the late 6th stage, the space of the river crab world expanded further. Even though 100 million people have moved in, the river crab world is still not saturated. Fly to the left, there are 5 small territories on an island in that direction. Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo's mind moved and he said to the two sea and sky birds. A mid-7th stage cultivator dares to offend me and Xuanhuan at the same time. At the same time, Fan Changdong, who returned to the Zhouhuang territory, could not help but sneer on his face after telling the old ancestor Xuanhuan about what happened to Chen Ronghuo. In the entire 5-color sea area, there are a total of 4 marquee-level lords, excluding the Deep Blue Sea and the Xuanhuan Sea. Among them, there is only him in their Zhouhuang Sea. There is also only one person in the Ziji Sea. He and the Lord of the Ziji Sea are both in the late 7th stage. There are 2 marquee-level lords in the Qingtian Sea. One of the 2 marquee-level lords is in the late 7th stage like him, and the other is in the middle 7th stage. At the same time, the 4 lords of the 3 seas formed a loose alliance with each other, and when necessary, they would fight against the old ancestor Xuanhuan. And now, Chen Ronghuo offended him and also offended the old ancestor Xuanhuan. In his opinion, it was a death wish. What the 5-color sea area needs now is balance. Fan Changdong's eyes flashed. Thanks to the book friend 20180325084426003 for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 401. Clang. Clang. The sea and sky divine bird, which was tens of meters long, circled over a small island on the edge of the Zhouhuang Sea, and immediately attracted the attention of several territorial lords on the island. Feeling the powerful pressure emanating from the sea and sky divine bird, several small lords trembled one by one. They all belonged to the subsidiary territories of the Zhouhuang territory. Generally speaking, the Zhouhuang territory would not intervene in the fights between their small territories. However, if the big demons in the Zhouhuang territory dared to invade their territories, the Zhouhuang territory would generally retaliate afterwards. So under normal circumstances, there would not be 2 strong demons who would attack their respective territories. But if there were really demons like the sea and sky divine bird that set their sights on their island, they would have no choice but to kneel. Boom! Suddenly, just when they were terrified, the big river crab that finally caught up from a distance raised its huge dark claws and placed them on their small island, making a loud rumbling sound. It's over, they are coming for us. The faces of the lords of several territories turned pale when they saw the big river crab. If they were to attack a monster as big as the big river crab, which was terrifying at first sight, they might not even be able to fill the big river crab's teeth. The lords of several small territories were so frightened that they couldn't even think of running away. The river crab leader took people in, by force. Suddenly, the big river crab spoke in a muffled voice. A thunderous sound spread throughout the island. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One by one, the third and fourth level cultivators flew out of the river crab leader and landed on the small island, and began to control the people on the island and assist them to quickly transfer to the river crab world. On the back of the sea and sky bird, Chen Ronghuo looked at the scene and nodded slightly. After he took over the deep blue sea in one fell swoop, the third and fourth level cultivators under him had already formed a scale, and Wang Hassan and others had to do it themselves without any need. After waiting quietly for a short while, all the people on the island, along with some useful supplies, were transferred to the back of the big river crab. The next target. After Chen Ronghuo made a brief calculation using the ancient book, he let the sea and sky bird carry him to another nearby island. So one island after another was quickly cleared out by Chen Ronghuo under such circumstances. And the number of people in his territory was skyrocketing by hundreds of thousands. Among the 5 sea areas of the 5 colors sea, the deep blue sea is the smallest, with the worst resources and the fewest people. Other sea areas are stronger than the deep blue sea. In one day, Chen Ronghuo quietly collected 10 million people in the turbid yellow sea. That's about it. We have to stop after we have another small goal of 10 million. Chen Ronghuo touched the neck of the high seas divine bird and said, if there are more, the river crab world will not be able to bear it. If you are not satisfied, you can wait for a while. When the big river crab breaks through to the peak of the 6th level, we will come to collect people again. Anyway, they are here and can't run away. Clang. The 2 sea and sky divine birds raised their necks and sang loudly, piercing gold and splitting stones. Since they followed Chen Ronghuo, they found that what Chen Ronghuo said about helping them to reach the 7th level within 10 years was not false at all. Their master can actually change the speed of time. At the same time, during this day, the blood and qi attributes, soul origin attributes, and other attributes that Chen Ronghuo integrated into them finally made their previous dissatisfaction disappear by more than half. Whoever gives you milk is your mother. This is a golden saying for many lives. Lord, something happened. Just as Chen Ronghuo continued to forcibly recruit people in the Zhouhuang Sea, Fan Changdong's Zhouhuang territory finally found something unusual. This matter can be concealed for a while, but it certainly cannot be concealed forever. After all, as long as someone passes by an island that has been plundered by Chen Ronghuo, they will find something unusual. What's going on? Fan Changdong looked at the anxious look on his subordinate's face and his face sank. The subordinate immediately reported, Lord, someone just reported that many of the subsidiary territories on the edge of our Zhouhuang territory disappeared yesterday. It seems that the people in those territories were forcibly taken away. Disappeared? Forcibly taken away. Fan Changdong's face changed, as if he suddenly thought of something, and asked, did the people who came to report say that there were other anomalies in those disappeared territories? Yes, the subordinate replied, that person said that there were huge gaps on the edges of some islands, as if they were pressed out by some huge heavy objects. But he couldn't see what caused those gaps. Huh. Fan Changdong exhaled and sat back on the Lord's throne. River Crab Lord, Chen Ronghuo. He immediately thought of Chen Ronghuo. Apart from Chen Ronghuo, he couldn't think of anyone else who would do this. Hurry up, speed up. On the back of the big river crab, a 3rd and 4th level cultivator was helping the islanders on an island to quickly move to the river crab world. For this matter, they have already become familiar with it. Fan Changdong is here. Chen Ronghuo stood on the back of a sea and sky divine bird, looking into the distance. In a moment, a figure quickly rushed over where his eyes were, and it was Fan Changdong. Chen Ronghuo, it's you. As soon as he saw Chen Ronghuo, Fan Changdong gritted his teeth. Before, he was still thinking about how to deal with Chen Ronghuo, but he didn't expect that Chen Ronghuo would start to attack him before he could deal with Chen Ronghuo. What's wrong? Chen Ronghuo smiled and said, have you figured it out and want to become my subordinate? You are very good. Fan Changdong was furious. I don't know where you came from, but you actually took the initiative to deal with me. Do you really think I am easy to bully? Do you think our 5-color sea area is easy to bully? What do you mean by that? When did it become that I took the initiative to attack you? You are slandering me. Chen Ronghuo smiled and stomped on the sea and sky birds below with his feet. You have evil intentions towards my birds, and I am here to retaliate. Isn't this justified? Your birds. Fan Changdong set his eyes on the 2 sea and sky birds under Chen Ronghuo, and his heart trembled. Only then did he react that these 2 sea and sky birds with space attributes had actually been subdued by Chen Ronghuo. At the same time, he looked at those who were assisting the islanders on the island in front and transferring to the space gate on the back of the big river crab, and there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. This space gate is the real location of the river crab territory in an alien space. Fan Changdong showed a strange look on his face. No, it's not an alien space. This Chen Ronghuo can burn the power of faith in the river crab territory, which means that his territory is on the back of this big river crab. Then, only a small plane can meet the conditions. Fan Changdong's eyes were shining. The last time he fought with Chen Ronghuo, he felt that the river crab territory was a little strange. But the situation was tense at the time, and he didn't think much about it. It was not until now that he understood why he felt strange at the time. Because at that time, he clearly didn't see a resident on the back of the big river crab. Clang! Clang! At this time, the 2 sea and sky divine birds set their eyes on Fan Changdong, and both showed a hint of fiery red. They were still obviously angry about Fan Changdong trapping them with a formation yesterday. See? My birds don't welcome you. Chen Ronghuo said faintly, since you are not here to seek refuge with me, then go back. Don't worry, I will visit dozens more islands like this, and when I have 20 million people, I will not take action again for the time being. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 402. You're looking for death. Fan Changdong looked ugly. Chen Ronghuo almost regarded his turbid yellow sea as his own back garden. If this matter spreads, he may become a joke in the entire 5-color sea area. Boom! He waved his hand, and endless cold air surged out, connecting with the sea under his feet, pulling out a huge snow-white ice wall. He stood on the ice wall, and with a thought, the head and tail of the ice wall seemed like a huge ice dragon. It let out a strange roar, spiraled up, and went straight towards Chen Ronghuo. Facing the incoming giant soldier dragon, Chen Ronghui showed no fear. He raised his fist and used the demon disintegration technique. At the same time, he mobilized the power of the law of force and the law of blood, and calmly punched the ice dragon in front of him. Boom! The fist carrying unstoppable momentum, with a bang, knocked down the huge dragon charging towards him with just one blow. The layers were peeled off and smashed into pieces. Chiang! Chiang! As soon as Fan Changdong moved, 2 sea and sky divine birds flew out, one to the left and one to the right, turning into 2 white lines and whizzing to the top of Fan Changdong's head. The 2 birds fired a space blade at the same time, crossing into a cross and cutting towards Fan Changdong. Chen Ronghuo raised his head and glanced at Fan Changdong. With a wave of his hand, Fan Changdong actually froze himself in a crystal ice coffin, causing the crisscrossing space blades fired by the two sea and sky divine birds to return in vain. Chen Ronghuo didn't care about this either. Fan Changdong is a late 7th level cultivator. It is absolutely normal for him to be able to block the attack of two sea and sky divine birds. Boom! After smashing the ice dragon charging towards him with one punch, he stepped on the void and approached Fan Changdong. As he approached, he raised a hand without hesitation, shaped into a tiger's claw, and grasped Fan Changdong from a distance. Roar! This claw, vaguely, seemed to be accompanied by a tiger. With a monstrous tiger spirit. The two divine birds of the sea and sky also seized the opportunity and flashed in the void again and again. Every time it flickers, the power of space laws will be mobilized, either to split the space or to assassinate in secret, no matter what. Originally, the two of them did not dare to fight Fan Changdong head-on. But with Chen Ronghuo in check, the two of them became bolder. Chen Ronghuo burns the power of faith, and his strength is only slightly weaker than Fan Changdong. With the two of them restraining him at this time, it didn't take long for Fan Changdong to be suppressed by Chen Ronghuo. Boom 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 boom. Chen Ronghuo's fists continued continuously, as if he didn't have any strength. Even if he deliberately restrained his strength, every punch he threw when fighting Fan Changdong still stirred up tens of thousands of tons of sea water. A large amount of sea water falls from high in the sky, and the clouds are steaming and the clouds are bright, like a wonder falling from the sky. Fan Changdong, who was at a disadvantage, was being pressed closer and closer by Chen Ronghuo, and could not help but gradually move away from the river leader. Even though his strength was as high as the late 7th level, under the harassment of two sea and sky divine birds, he received so many punches from Chen Ronghuo, and finally realized that he might have really fallen into trouble this time. Fan Changdong's face looked ugly, as if he had eaten arsenic. He has never suffered such a big loss, especially this time, he was bullied to the doorstep. Chen Ronghuo, it seems that you really want to be my enemy. Then it depends on your choice. Chen Ronghuo shook his head, kept moving his hands, striking with fists and claws, carrying the rain with his cloak, and his strength reached 10,000. The body is full of power as it jumps, twists, and turns. His body was not deliberately enlarged. But at this moment, he was walking in the void, whipping up a huge storm, chasing Fan Changdong, but he was like a majestic giant with power that could lift mountains and unparalleled power. Okay, you have offended Xuanhuan and you still come to provoke me. I want to see how long you can continue to be arrogant, Fan Changdong sneered, with a cold look on his face. After condensing the wall of ice to block another punch from Chen Ronghuo, he condensed his breath, and his body exploded into the distance with a bang like an unloaded cannonball. Did you escape? Chen Ronghuo stopped and did not pursue. In the battle with Fan Changdong just now, he only used the law of power, the law of immortality, and the law of blood, but did not use any other laws. He also did not use the power of the ancient book. Now, he is not sure of fighting and killing Fan Changdong. Using these in advance may make Fan Changdong wary. At the same time, he also knew that in the battle just now, Fan Changdong did not use his full strength. At the very least, as a 7th level cultivator, it is impossible for Fan Changdong not to have one or two decent secret treasures. But Fan Changdong did not use any of these. Jiang. After the two sea and sky divine birds chased Fan Changdong for a while, they quickly spread their wings and flew back when they saw that Chen Ronghuo didn't follow him. The two of them alone are no match for Fan Changdong. After the two birds returned, they hovered around Chen Ronghuo and made loud calls, as if to say that sooner or later, Fan Changdong would be forced to kneel down and beg for mercy. You two don't have to be impatient. If you wait a few more years, I can help you get revenge without my master taking action. The big river crab below waved two large pincers and spoke in a muffled voice. No, we will avenge ourselves. The two sea and sky divine birds glanced at the big river crab and said proudly. After spending some time together, they all knew that the big river crab was only at the late 6th stage. With the cultivation of the late 6th stage, it can exert the strength of a half-step 7th stage, and can also withstand the attacks of the late 7th stage cultivators without getting hurt. This is really a bit scary. However, they also have their own pride. They think that their status is equal to that of the big river crab. They are all Chen Ronghuo's demon pets, so naturally they don't want to be suppressed by the big river crab. Chen Ronghuo smiled secretly when he heard the conversation between the big river crab and the two sea and sky birds. These demon pets of his own have strong personalities. The greedy and fierce fat cat, the bored big river crab, the timid colorful spirit butterfly, the funny little white dragon, the devil mermaid who looks like a young wife when aggrieved, plus these two arrogant sea and sky birds. Chen Ronghuo suddenly felt that although he had been busy practicing since he came to this world, his life was not without fun with the company of these pets. He was somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, he chose to become a demon magician. Otherwise, he would have lived in this world for decades or even hundreds of years, practicing dryly. When he returned to Earth and saw his parents and sister, I'm afraid he would have no idea what his personality would be like. With the fat cats by his side, he could always keep an interesting heart and not be wasted by time. It's almost enough. There's no need to pursue the goal of getting 20 million people. Just as he was thinking this, Chen Ronghuo's heart suddenly moved. Now the river crab world can accommodate more people, but with the speed of time in the river crab world, it won't take long for many new babies to be born. Next, it's time to settle down for a while. Chen Ronghuo set his eyes on the big river crab and thought to himself, I have been breaking through to the 6th level for so long, but I haven't practiced the 6th level secret technique properly. I have the ancient book. This time I got the time stone, I can use the 20 times time acceleration to study some things well. Thinking of this, Chen Ronghuo raised his head again and looked in the direction of the turbid yellow territory. Then, see you later. He already had a plan in his mind. Even if he is active now, it is just a small fight. It is better to wait for a few years, wait for Wan Hassan and others, as well as his demon pets, to improve their cultivation greatly, and then take over the 5-color sea area in one fell swoop. Qiyun Patriarch is a 7th level peak cultivator, and most of the lords of other sea areas have reached the late 7th level. When Wan Hassan and others break through, I only need to destroy a territory, and my cultivation can immediately break through to the 7th level. After making the decision, Chen Ronghuo immediately asked all the people who were still outside to return to the river crab world. Let's go, I'll take you to meet other friends. Then, he brought the two sea and sky birds into the river crab world. As for the big river crab, under his command, it sank and escaped under the seabed plate of the turbid yellow sea area. Thanks to Eastern Dragon for the 100 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 403. River Crab Collar? Chen Ronghuo. The news that Chen Ronghuo and Fan Changdong fought twice, subdued the sea and sky god bird, and plundered 20 million territorial citizens from the Zhouhuang Sea quickly spread throughout the 5-colored sea area. This can be said to be a very embarrassing thing. But these things were spread by Fan Changdong himself. Today's 5-color sea area requires balance. Chen Ronghuo had a conflict with him. Once Xuanhuan suppressed his anger, made good friends with Chen Ronghuo, and pulled Chen Ronghuo into their camp, what consequences would this have on him, as well as on him and several lords from Ziji Sea area and Xingtian Sea area? This is a huge blow to the loose alliance. After Fan Changdong informed the three lords of the other two sea areas about Chen Ronghuo and the river crab territory, two of the three lords rushed over immediately, wanting to work with Fan Changdong to get rid of Chen Ronghuo, to avoid long nights and many dreams. But facing Chen Ronghuo, who had already been hiding, their trip was naturally in vain. Fan Changdong, what's going on? Aren't you that big river crab that's hundreds of miles long? How can such a huge behemoth just disappear? Yun Zhengxian, the lord of Ziji territory, said. That's right, you shouldn't be idle, are you lying to us? Gong Xiao, the lord of Qingtian territory, also flashed his eyes. Yun Zhengxian and Gong Xiao, like Fan Changdong, are late 7th level practitioners. In addition, there is a mid-7th order female lord in Qingtian Sea, named Qiu Yaru. Qiu Yaru and Gong Xiao didn't have a good relationship because they were in the same sea area, so this time, she didn't come over. Lying to you, what do I gain by lying to you? Fan Changdong's face turned ugly, and didn't you hear the news about the battle between Chen Ronghuo and me before? Besides, the 20 million people in our Zhouhuang Sea area were robbed, was it my own doing? Okay, Fan Changdong, you don't have to be so angry. Of course we don't really believe what you said. It's just that we can't find the river crab leader now, and we may be in big trouble in the future. Yun Zhengxian shook his head and said, so if possible, you'd better think about it and see if there's anything else you've missed that you haven't told us. That's right, Gong Xiao also said, you also said that Chen Ronghuo robbed 20 million territorial citizens in your turbid Yellow Sea. With so many territorial citizens, he can't just throw them all on the back of that big river crab. Are you on board? Fan Changdong's eyes narrowed, knowing that he could no longer hide this from the two of them. You guessed wrong. Chen Ronghuo did throw all 20 million people on the back of that big river crab, Fan Changdong said, it's just that there are several space gates on the back of that big river crab. I don't know where to connect. Space door? Isn't there a movable plane in the river crab territory? Yun Zhengxian and Gong Xiao's eyes lit up, and they immediately thought of the plane. As far as they know, in the entire North Sea of the Gods continent, only among the 10 King Islands, there is such a treasure as the movable plane. However, each of the 10 King Islands has a demigod-level powerhouse stationed there, which is definitely not something they can make decisions about. In that case, the three of us will look for it again. This time, their expectations for finding Chen Ronghuo were even greater. In the river crab collar, Chen Ronghuo knew nothing about Fan Changdong and the others' plans. But even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Even if Fan Changdong and others wanted to break through the sky, they probably would not have thought that a large river crab with a size of hundreds of miles could actually escape underground. After all, generally speaking, it is often countless times more difficult for large beings to perform Earth escape techniques than for small beings. Training weapons, making talismans, refining elixirs, setting up formations, cooking. After making the decision to become a cultivator, in addition to practicing various secret techniques every day, he also began to study things that he was curious about before but had never tried. Now, it takes too long for him to make a fortune just by practicing. In the river crab world, the flow of time speeds up 20 times, and he already has enough time to try these things. There is no need to overwhelm oneself with many arts. These things may be useful at some point. He didn't study before because he didn't have enough time and energy. But now, it is different. In addition, he has ancient books in hand, which is equivalent to having the best teacher to teach him. It would be a pity if these were wasted. Dabai, Urbe, didn't you two say you wanted to give me a nephew 60 years ago? Why haven't you found one after so many years? In front of Lord Chen Ronghuo's mansion, Fat Cat lay down under the colorful spiritual tree that had grown several hundred meters high. He rolled around, raised his head, and said to the two sea and sky divine birds standing proudly on the eaves of Lord Chen Ronghuo's mansion, Dabai and Urbay are the names given by Shammao to the two sacred birds of the sea and sky. The male is called Dabai and the female is called Urbay. The two Haitian birds were quite satisfied. Why are you in such a hurry? You have to take your time with this thing, and in the end you can make the most perfect baby. Dabai curled his lips proudly. Can I not be in a hurry? The fat cat was bored and said, you two know how to practice every day and don't play with me. The master also messes with those messy things and doesn't play with me. Do you know how boring I am? Sister Fat Cat, I'm with you. I'm with you every day. I can even keep you wet. Why am I not doing a good job? Colorful spiritual butterflies hovered down from the sky. After so many years, the colorful spiritual butterfly is still the size of a palm, with a pitiful energy all over its body. No, you're doing great. Fat Cat felt a little embarrassed. The colorful spiritual butterfly is too innocent. If it says anything too much, this elf-like butterfly may cry out. It is not afraid of anything but the cry of the colorful butterfly. Of course, it is not only afraid of it. Chen Ronghuo's several spiritual pets are extremely doting on the colorful spiritual butterflies. You can go find Xiao Beilong. I think the two of you are quite suitable to play together. Dabai glanced at Fat Mao. Little white dragon, the fat cat immediately shook his head like a drum. It can't do it. I'm afraid I won't be able to bear it and eat it in one bite. Ah, sneeze. The little white dragon who was bathing in a lake in the river crab world sneezed. The sneeze turned into mist and flew up, and a moment later it started to rain heavily for more than 10 minutes. The lake it is located in is divided into two halves. Half of it is its world, full of peace and light. The other half is dark and dark, giving people a feeling of a demonic realm, but it is the territory of the devil mermaid. At this time, it was already the third year of Chen Ronghuo's latent cultivation. But 3 years in the outside world, a full 60 years have passed in the river crab world. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 404. Have I slept for 3 years? The big river crab opened its sleepy eyes, moved on the seabed, and then closed its eyes again. After its cultivation broke through to the 6th level, the sequelae of swallowing the earth attribute star core subsided a lot, but it was still sleeping most of the time when it was idle. Chen Ronghuo and others were in the river crab world, but as the owner of the river crab world, it couldn't enter. This was not because of the rules, but because it was too big. It could open the space door of the river crab world, but it couldn't enter the space door it opened with its size. This can only be solved when its strength becomes stronger and the space door it opens becomes larger. Of course, as its strength becomes stronger, its size will also increase further, so whether it can enter its own river crab world in the end is still unknown. I'm still not big enough, not strong enough. The big river crab muttered in his sleep. If he was big enough and strong enough, Chen Ronghuo and others would not have to move to the river crab world at all. Swish. In the world of river crabs, Chen Ronghuo drew on a talisman with a pen, and raised the pen at the last stage. The black and red strokes fell on the talisman, faintly revealing a sense of terror that went straight to the hair. Finally it's done. Chen Ronghuo held the pearl of disaster in one hand, and stood up with the talisman pen in the other hand, with a look of joy on his face. The talisman he drew was a special curse talisman. Stick this talisman on something closely related to the target, and then destroy that thing, and the target will be implicated. Because this talisman was completed by him with the blessing of the Pearl of Disaster, it has an effect on 7th level practitioners. Sure enough, I practice the law of soul, whether it is making talismans, refining tools, refining pills, I can get twice the result with half the effort. Chen Ronghuo thought to himself. There are too few practitioners who master the law of soul. But generally speaking, practitioners who practice the soul law, in addition to their strange methods, will have good attainments in alchemy or weapon refining. This talisman can barely reach the 7th level, which can be effective for ordinary 7th level practitioners, but it is not very effective for Fan Changdong, Qi Yunlizu and others. Chen Ronghuo pondered in his heart, now Wang Chao and others have not yet broken through to the 7th level, I still have some time to continue to improve my talisman making level. At the same time, I also have the ability of my left hand. Like this kind of talisman, if I refine more, and then merge the properties of several talismans into one, even Fan Changdong, Qi Yunlizu and others will probably be implicated. Buzz. Suddenly, when Chen Ronghuo was thinking about this, his heart suddenly moved, and he felt the traction from the internal space of the ancient book. This is... Chen Ronghuo was stunned. He separated a trace of his spirit and entered the internal space of the ancient book. A golden star fell from the membrane of the ancient book space, as if being pulled by some strange force, and fell on the membrane of the ancient book with a bang. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed, and countless pictures seemed to flash through his mind in an instant. In the picture, a man wearing golden armor, holding a bronze ancient spear, blood-stained, and with a resolute look, was running on the sea. Behind the man, a young man in white followed closely. The young man in purple rode on a white-browed tiger, looking down from a high position, with a cold look, giving people a sense of ruthlessness. Chen Ronghuo's eyes fell on the white tiger under the purple-clothed young man's seat, and his mind moved slightly. This ability of the ancient book has not been activated for a long time. I don't know what I will gain this time. Chen Ronghuo put down the talisman pen and walked out of the secret room. He hasn't been out for a long time. 3 years outside, 60 years in the river crab world. These 60 years are more than half of all the time he has lived. Come on, you guys go out with me. After walking out of the secret room, Chen Ronghuo glanced and called the fat cat and the 2 birds, Dabai and Erbe. Master, are we going to attack those territories in the 5-colored sea area? The fat cat's eyes sparkled. It was a little pent up. No, Chen Ronghuo smiled, we'll go and help you find the big axe. The turbid yellow sea area. The middle-aged man wearing golden armor and holding a bronze ancient spear, with a heavy face, rushed on the sea. He exuded a tragic aura all over his body, like a general on the battlefield, with a stagnant breath and a hint of blood red. The mighty and fierce aura was conveyed through the spear in his hand, like thousands of horses galloping. However, the purple-clothed youth chasing behind him and the white tiger under the purple-clothed youth's seat exuded a more powerful aura. Because the aura exuded by one man and one tiger was a pure 7th level cultivator. And the aura exuded by the middle-aged man was powerful, but his cultivation was only half a step to the 7th level. There is still half a step to the real 7th level. Meng Tian, surrender. The young man persuaded with a cold voice, you are in charge of the divine spear of war, and there is no place for you in a territory like Baihu territory. But our Baihu territory is different. My father is a 9th level strongman, the Duke of Baihu, one of the 32 Grand Dukes of the North Sea. You can fully display your talent if you join our Baihu territory. No need to say any more, Meng Tian, who was flying in front, shouted coldly, the Marquis of Baihu is my good friend. You White Tiger leader destroyed the entire island of Baihu leader. I have already sworn an oath that I will avenge Baihu leader in this life. Damn it, are all these guys in charge of the divine weapons of heaven and earth so stubborn? The young man in purple frowned slightly. His name is Bai Tianj, and he is the 13th son of Grand Duke Baihu. This time, it was he who led the people to destroy the Baihu leader. It was just that when he was annihilating the entire island of Baihu territory, he never thought that he would encounter Meng Tian who was in charge of the divine spear of war. But by then, he had already destroyed Baihu Island, and it was too late to regret it. Since you are stubborn, don't blame me for being cruel. A cold look appeared on Bai Tianj's face, he closed his eyes and sank his consciousness into the body of Baihu who was sitting down. He is a tiger warlock. The way to practice and fight is to cultivate a powerful tiger, then sink the consciousness into the tiger's body, merge and superimpose it with the tiger's consciousness, and control the tiger to fight. Roar. During the day, the white tiger under the singing seat suddenly let out a shocking roar, and its speed suddenly increased. It chased behind Meng Tian and dropped a claw. The sharp tiger claws cut through the air with a threatening cold light, and with a swipe, they collided with the divine spear of war that Meng Tian turned around to greet. There was a loud bang, and Meng Tian was knocked away by the tiger's claws. If you don't surrender, then I'll beat you until you surrender. With one blow, Meng Tian flew away. Bai Tianj controlled the white tiger, like a tarsal maggot, and quickly caught up with Meng Tian. Boom boom boom. Meng Tian unfolded his divine spear with a crazy look on his face, trying his best to intercept Bai Tianj's attack. The two fought all the way, and soon they traveled thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles. After all, Meng Tian's strength was inferior to Bai Tianj's. After successive battles, his injuries became more and more serious, and his breathing became as rapid as that of an old cow. If it weren't for the tyrannical fighting spirit bred through the divine spear of war, he might have been unable to hold on long ago. Meng Tian, I'll give you one last chance. Bai Tianj said with a cold expression. The cultivators who are in charge of the divine weapons of heaven and earth are all the true pride of heaven. They grow very fast. If they are cultivated carefully, it will not take long for them to grow up. Although Meng Tian had a big grudge against him and it was impossible to truly surrender to him, as long as Meng Tian surrendered now, he had many ways to control Meng Tian. Kill, kill, kill. Meng Tian ignored Tianj's words at all, and just attacked Bai Tianga again and again with the magic weapon of Quanguozhan. Since you want to die, then I will make it happen for you. Tianji's face looked ugly. Finally, he stopped being ruthless, clawed out again, and used his killing move. Clang! Clang! But at this moment, two bird songs that pierced the cracked gold and stone suddenly sounded from a distance. Then Tianji focused his eyes and saw two dark space blades in front of him, crossing into a cross. Print it to yourself. Boom! Bai Tianj raised his tiger claw and blasted the two space blades into pieces. Who dares to attack me? Meow. Grateful.